Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TFT patch note rundown for 9.23. This is the first major patch and the first ranked patch of the new set, which is Rise of the Elements. I have a lot of stuff to kind of talk about for this specific patch. This is the first balance patch, and players have been able to play for 2 weeks on an entirely new set. There are kind of some overall thoughts that I'd like to share. First of all, being the fact that I think that there's a lot of really good things about the new set. Everything from the increased board size alone would have made the set more enjoyable for me. But generally speaking, they decided to make synergies more kind of... you kind of had synergy counters as opposed to just raw item counters. And I like that a lot. It feels like, generally speaking, you build a lot more partial sets. So the early game of playing TFT feels a lot more exciting and engaged because you're constantly switching your composition on board with something you have on the bench or something that you're rolling by. Like if you're not switching something like every other round on your board, it's kind of rare actually for the new set as opposed to the old set, which I like a lot. Now the downsides is the current late game, I think, of the new set is kind of bad because, or it feels bad because a lot of 6+ synergies aren't very good. You have light, you have shadow, which scales really well. And then everything else is like you just splash 3 small synergies, and they tend to overpower large synergy combinations unless you're finding a really, really lucky Lux in some way, shape, or form. I think that that's kind of bad. Like you want to kind of have a good balance of like, well, like the ultimate top tier high roll is a 6+ synergy, and that doesn't really feel like the case. Especially with stuff like Inferno, maybe Summoner feels kind of lackluster. Additionally, some units are super overtuned that are gonna get nerfed, like Yorick, Olaf, Diana, stuff like that. So I don't want to really talk about it because I haven't seen all the patch notes or all the assumed changes. I just wanted to jump right into it. So green Tacticians, the big news this patch is the return of rank Q. On the balance front, we made a host of small changes to fix a bunch of game-altering bugs. The method to our madness focused on shifting some power into Tier 2 and Tier 3 champs while pulling some power from stronger Tier 1 champions. We're happy we took this extra patch to get all the new set jitters out, but overall, we're really excited about the state of Rise of the Elements. There's multiple paths to victory, and each game plays out differently, so good luck on your climb. Cool, let's keep going. Okay, so traits that got nerfed. Glacial got nerfed by a little bit. Honestly, I didn't think Glacial was that hard to deal with. And if you got 6 Glacial, you're really lucky with the Lux, so that's just whatever. I thought Olaf was just the biggest problem, and nerfing him alone would solve a lot of your Glacial problems. And I think he is going to get nerfed later down. The thing about Glacial, and it's the same thing for the first set, like the way you beat Glacial is a strong backline. So Glacial only can CC the front line usually, and they can't touch your backline. So if you have like a strong brand or something that can melt the front line as well as healing reduction, then you're good to go. I think that a lot of people, like, that's just not intuitive for them to think about how to beat Glacial. I've heard a lot of complaints about this trait. I don't think it's nearly as good as people think. It's just tuned to a really, really, really strong champion, and that's fine as long as the champion gets nerfed. Light. The total heal amount is based on the champion's dying health rather than those receiving the heal. Okay, that's a decent nerf to Light. So the remaining units don't get like huge heals when the Light units die. Light, I think is one of those 6 costs or 6 synergies that's actually really good late game. If you can hyper roll for Light and do very, very well for yourself. Ocean Mana, one of those things that isn't very good at 4 or 6. So I think the only viable Ocean comp right now is 4 Ocean 6 Mages, which I tend to run quite a bit. It's pretty fun in my opinion, but tends to fall off. And the biggest reason it falls off is due to the Ocean portion of the composition. Like you're replacing 4 Ocean at the very tail end with like something like you're hoping for an Ocean Lux pretty much at the top end, or you're just throwing in like a random Taric too. So I do like to see buffs on this. And Shadow bonus. Shadow was super, super hard to balance because in the end, you should think of Shadow scaling as like the best scaling in the game. Similar to Imperial, when you have something that can do double damage and up to 4 units that can all do double damage, then yeah, it's like super, super crazy in my opinion in terms of late game balance. It's hard to balance around it, especially with the idea of Kindred being so powerful. A lot of the Shadow units by themselves are the best of its respective cost in that respective bracket or in that respective synergy. So stuff like Malzahar, stuff like Kindred. Kindred's like the best 3-cost ranger. Malzahar is like the best 2-cost summoner. I don't even know if there's another 2-cost summoner. Okay, well, yeah, it's just like they're very, very good units, and there's no real tax for going Shadow. um, which is balance problem. So anyways, I actually think that the 2-stack shadow bonus is still really, really high. They only nerfed it by 5%, so Splashing Shadow is still very good on the new set. Probably would have been okay with them nerfing this down a little bit more. Warden's got more armor bonus. I think Wardens suck, so they could use more armor. Even putting 2 Wardens on board doesn't really feel good. Like you're just like, well shit. Like unless you have Thornmail or Iceborne or another armor item, like you never really even care about the Warden bonus. It's only somewhat relevant early game. It gets drastically worse as the game progresses. I think Warden is just destined to be like kind of mediocre, especially when there's like a hard counter of Desert in the game. But sometimes you can pop off with like Wardens on the mountain map, for instance. 3-star scaling, ability scaling. We make sure that the higher 3-cost units are exciting power. What am I reading? We want to make sure the higher cost 3-star champions are an exciting power up worth the chase of getting them. Okay, this is true for 80 HP scaling champions, but not so much. Okay, so they're buffing 3 stars for like they want people to chase 3-star units to make it feel worthwhile. I think that's reasonable. They're buffing Jax, LeBlanc, Nico. None of these have like crazy buffs, it's like 100. Thresh got a little bit. Volibear got 150. Let's go to the tier 3 ones are the ones that should be buffed by quite a bit. Ezreal got 400 damage on his. What the fuck? His mana pool I think is 40 or 35. So 3-star hit Ezreal is actually worth a lot now. Wow. Kindred got a big buff. Oh no, never mind. It's only 200. Why did I read 400? Sorry, I was reading this. That's not as big as I thought. Apologies. I don't know why I went a little nuts there. This is 125 for Kindred. Knowledge stun duration goes up by 1. Knowledge damage goes up by 100, and Scion goes up. The most relevant for all of these is probably Scion, actually, because he's a shadow, and his scaling works on his actual spell damage. 3-star Scion being more damage actually matters a lot, because it means Scion's essentially a burst mage for your composition. Like he's actually crazy. So it's like much more than the damage usually is. Aatrox got the highest buff, I think, at 250, from 750 to 1000, which is somewhat relevant. The rest of the stuff is just, it's nice, and I agree with the thoughts of buffing tier 3 cost units to make them more valuable. Let's continue on. General champion balance. Okay, so Ivern got nerfed. Maokai got nerfed. Early Woodlands is a little bit too strong, so any nerfs to early Woodland I agree with for the most part. Nasus got nerfed at tier 1. Nasus got buffed. No, wait, got buffed at tier 1. Stayed the same. Okay. I don't really care about 3 costs. They're nerfing 3 cost stuff so that you don't hyper roll as much. I think that's pretty fair. So it's down from 600 to 500. I think hyper rolling is really, really strong on the new set, and so they're trying to tone it down a little bit. I think generally speaking, when it comes to hyper roll, it's like the easiest thing to do. And once people refine more strategies and comps, it becomes less and less important, especially if 5 cost units are very valuable in the set. Which in the current set, there's like a lot of really powerful 5 cost units. Additionally, so they ended up. Yeah, they nerfed all the 3-star 1 cost tier or 1 tier units. Thalia mana, okay, goes down a little bit. The stun duration goes up. Thalia is probably the weakest tier 1 unit in the game. And you pick her mainly because for the mage synergy as well as the mountain synergy. So there was a big tax on her. I think giving her a small buff is nice. Vayne ends up going down a little bit at tier 3, up a little bit at tier 1. And Vladimir gets nerfed by a little bit. I did think a 2-star Vlad was a little strong. Every time I got 2-star Vlad, I would just stack any item on him and he'd be good, whether it's health item or AP items or pretty much anything except for 80 items. Like Vladimir can kind of carry you through the first entire stage 2 and maybe halfway through stage 3. which probably means that the power level of that unit was a little bit too high. Let's keep going. Tier 2, Malzahar minion health went down. I think this is really important. Malzahar is a really interesting summoner in that half the summoners can't be auto, like you can't auto attack their minions. So you can auto attack Yorick, you can auto attack Malzahar, yeah, and you can auto attack Zed, and you can't auto attack Azir or Zyra. And so Malzahar was probably the most infuriating at putting units down, and if you didn't have AoE in your comp, it mattered a lot. So I think nerf to Malzahar minion health is really good. Oh, Annie's stuff can be auto attacked as well, but I think since she's a 4 cost, it's well deserved that she's got a really tanky body. Whereas I feel like Malzahar being able to infinitely summon units that can tank for you was kind of frustrating to play against. So I much approve of the health nerf. What happened here? Rek'Sai got buffed early, nerfed here. Rek'Sai is still one of the best, if not the best predator in the game. That 550 for tier 2 is probably still too high, and there's a good chance you'll see this get nerfed in the future, I think, because having it do actual true damage is quite nasty. Starter got armor and mana buff, which is great. I was looking to stack Skarner on old patch, and I kind of wanted to try stacking him on this new patch. I think that there's a chance that he could be a fairly strong frontline, especially if you're looking to do like Crystal Poison Predator that I was experimenting with last patch. Poison Predator is already pretty strong. Instead of going Kog'Maw, going the Ranger backline is definitely better here, and I think that it's very interesting. Thresh ended up getting buffed by quite a bit, and 3-star Thresh is actually worth quite a bit as well. It's 200 shield for everyone. That's really, really nice. Yasuo ends up getting nerfed at tier 3, buffed at tier 1. Overall, it's whatever. People normally didn't go 3-star Yasuo. Ezreal mana went down. Oh, for 40 to 35. That's a huge one, actually. Seraph's refunds 20, so 1 auto. I think it's 1 auto if he gets another Q, and the cast time goes down as well. Right now, if you're going for tier 3 Rangers, like you always stack Kindred. Ezreal is kind of a liability. Like he's there for the synergy for Glacial and other stuff. Very rarely do you stack Ezreal. This could actually make it pretty appealing, especially because they ended up buffing like tier 3 Ezreal up here. Where is it? Up here, maybe going for 3-star Ezreal might be somewhat possible in certain comps. Ezreal was used in Zerker Glacial comps, and so maybe he'll just be like he's like a possible strong secondary carry in that comp still, and potentially primary carry depending on your Seraphs. So yeah, Ezreal got a lot of buffs this patch. Wow. Tier 4 Ashe attack speed goes up. Brand goes up at tier 1, same at tier 2. Brand bounce goes up at tier 1. Malphite HP goes up. Olaf mana nerf is really big. Being able to CC Olaf before he ultis is a big deal, and extending the time it takes for him to pop up, especially if you're stacking him with a bunch of AD items, which is what people normally do. It makes him much harder for Glacial and Zerker comps to take over the game. Yorick health ghoul decrease is great. I think Yorick is still like stupidly strong, and so any nerfs to Yorick I'm down for. Ashe and certain Rangers in general seem like they're getting a lot of love here. I think they're looking to buff Crystal in general with Ashe plus Skarner, and I already think Brand is one of the best carries in the game. I don't think this really changes this at all, especially with Olaf getting nerfed. Stacking Brand in like multiple mage comps, like he's gonna pop off. I've seen it happen multiple times in the PB lobbies I've been playing as well as on live. Singed goes down. Singed gets nerfed again. Singed is actually super. Like Predators are the things that will generally hard counter mages, soft counter mages late game. And so Poison just becomes like incredibly powerful late game, especially against stuff like Summoners, Zed, or Mages. And so having to nerf the health and nerf the damage, completely understand. He's still going to be a good unit, especially with Morello's. But yeah. And they buffed Taric health. Realize they're trying to buff all the crystal units so people use them more. I think Taric is actually super slept on in general. Every time I have a Taric, and I can easily make a Taric 2 because no one's making Taric, right? And Taric 2 ulti is just invulnerability. AoE invulnerability, it's invaluable for a lot of different comps. So I really, really, really like Taric, actually. I think he's definitely going to see a lot more play. So moving on, Frozen Heart's attack speed slow got nerfed. Iceborne attack speed slow got nerfed. Guardian Angel can no longer heal during the resurrecting state. so it no longer synergizes with Redemption. Well, Ionic Spark got nerfed. Okay, I'm surprised Ionic Spark got nerfed. I'm gonna throw that out there right now. I'm really happy to see Iceborne nerfed. I'm not so sure how important the Frozen Heart nerf is. It's usable it was used mainly on Kha'Zix and maybe Singed, but it was not as annoying as Iceborne. I still think Iceborne on cloud maps is going to be super overpowered, and it should be nerfed in some way, shape, or form. I don't think this is enough, even though it lowering by 10%, but definitely very happy to see this item get nerfed by a lot. Ranked is on. Everyone will be reset to Iron. No losing LP for the first 5 games. No placing 4th or better. Cool. I'm just waiting for Ranked. Ranked is why I play the game. I love Ranked. Bug fixes. Diana Orbs can only hit multiple targets. This is a huge Diana nerf, by the way. Enormous. This turns Diana from an S tier pick to an average, above average pick. Humongous. You will nerf. You will not be stacking Diana in the future because of this. Okay. Renekton's ability now deals magic damage. I think this is actually kind of weird because Renekton was also a desert unit, so now having two desert units doing magic damage kind of sucks. I thought Renekton was fine doing physical damage, and I think they're trying to make it so everything does physical damage or everything does magic damage, but I find that to be very hard to balance the game on because it means that the value of magic resist is generally higher than magic of armor. It means that you always need magic resist because almost everything does that except for even assassins sometimes, maybe assassins and rangers. I don't know. It's just a weird balance thing that I don't really agree with, but whatever they want to do, it's whatever. Zyra plan attack speed duration now matched their intended amount. Oh, Kog'Maw's ability now misses far less often. I don't know what this means because I don't have numbers on how much it misses now, but I do know if I put Seraphs on Kog'Maw, it actually feels kind of bad. So generally speaking, the best Kog'Maw build right now is I think triple Ludens, but maybe if I can go Ludens plus Seraphs or double Seraphs, I'll feel a lot better about it after this change. I will try it on PB. We'll see. Kog'Maw missed a lot, especially with Seraphs on live. Zyra plans no longer hop on your bench. Cool. Malzahar's immediate attack speed now matches his attack speed ratio. This results in slightly reduction of Malzahar MS. Okay. Muller's ability now restores him to full mana if a non-execute cast kills target. Okay. Kiana won't cast her ability when there's nothing in range. Cool. Veigar's ability now executes non-champions of his star levels below his. Great. Veigar and mages in general really suffered in the matchup against summoners because you couldn't kill your ghouls or any Tibbers with even if 3-star Veigar. So being able to do that now makes Veigar better against the summoner matchup. I think it should have done that in the first place, so this is a good bug fix. And he can no longer gain mana if he summons two Timbers and one of them dies. I didn't even know this was a thing. That actually makes Maged Annie a lot better. I didn't realize. Maged Annie is still okay if you have the summoner stuff, but yeah, this seems like you could summon 3 Timbers a fight. It's kind of interesting. Zed close now probably attribute damage to Zed in the damage tracker. Okay. Dragon's Claw now reduces magic damage received from non-ability effects. Oh, it didn't reduce magic damage from items and traits? That's really weird. Okay, that's a good bug fix because the item itself is relatively weak after the huge nerf. This is a really annoying one. I sport attack speed slow, occasionally persisting across rounds. I noticed it because at one time it lost me my huge win streak, and I was super pissed because it was the Iceborne slow from the round before against a different opponent. Inferno Center now probably works on Renekton, Jax, Rek'Sai, Vayne, Nami, Tidal Wave, and powered attacks. This is cool. I think Nami, more dog said that Nami actually has some really cool interactions. So Morelloing Nami or Infernoing Nami and making the wave pass through all your units makes them all receive Infernal or Morello buff on their auto attacks, which is kind of crazy. I think the value of Nami might go up off of this. Especially users no longer double the non-special component stats. I thought that was it was a bug and they fixed it. Talisman of Light now correctly grants MR. Didn't even realize it didn't do that. Generally speaking, going through everything, they slightly nerfed hyper rolling for 3-star 1-cost units, which I think is good. They nerfed Olaf, which I think is good. They ended up buffing a little bit of Crystal, which I think is good. Nerfed a little bit of Light. Nerfed Shadow, which I think is good. I liked a lot of what they ended up doing. I kind of worry for brand effectiveness, and I still don't think 6 Infernal is any good in any way, shape, or form. I think that PD and Rapid Fire Cannon need to be reworked. I still think Iceborne is probably still too good on Cloud and needs to be removed for my sanity's sake. Yeah, that's the most immediate thoughts. Overall, good patch. Yeah, I just really want to play ranked.